probably be late because he's one of the refs.
Stressing, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I know what I was going to tell you after the last meeting. Tony told me nothing bad, but be careful because where you lay your notebooks. He goes, sometimes you can. He goes, on the stream, if you looked, you can see exactly what you wrote
Oh,
because of the camera. I think he said it was Laurel.
Where's the cameras up there?
Right
I
here.
thought that was the microphone.
Yeah, right there. So, right? Isn't this the camera,
thought
or is
it
this
was-
just the
that's the
mic?
camera
I think
up
Is
there,
that the
right?
camera? Oh, that's the comment he made.
So
That
is
might
it
be.
this seat or that
I'll
seat or
write
which
it
seat?
down.
I thought he
now?
said
We're
this
like,
seat.
We're like,
Well, he said
"Let's
Laurel,
turn."
and he told me that for last meeting, so I'm assuming
Well,
it was,
'cause
or was it
when
from
I
when you
sat
were over
there,
there?
but
Maybe
I
that's
usually
what he meant.
write on the right side, but
Well, that could have been
Maybe I better
because
see what I
if you
wrote.
were there for the first
Invisible
part of the
ink.
meeting before
Nothing bad.
we did the organizational
right,
part,
yeah.
I was just thinking here at the end.
I'm sure.
And he said it was nothing bad, but just let her know in case you wrote like, "This really sucks. I'm sick of it," or something like that. I'm just,
I probably wouldn't write that.
I know, but I was just saying he was more like, "Yeah, nothing bad. Just let her know." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay."
It's usually note to self. Read Laurel. Don't forget to do this.
Do you have internet?
Yeah.
it was really slow.
Yes,
for
I
me to
did.
get going, but-
Earlier.
Why do I always get confused? Why? Okay, I'm here. Then
Okay, I usually go to my
Your Gmail?
email and
Okay.
just click on it to get into it. I don't know why.
You
I
guys
Easier?
just
Feel
great.
like it's easier?
I have not.
Okay.
I know other people do it the other way, but it just brings you right in. So.
Hello.
We used to have to log in on that part.
Because I know last time we went through
It started, so
Yeah.
weird.
The stream is, so it should be good here. Give me a chance.
Yeah. They're trying to get logged in too.
Angela Lush for Community Health Partners. She County. We're under their umbrella and they do like a free faith educating. So she's willing to come in for conferences.
Okay.
I'm setting that up with her.
Wait,
She's the one that did
If not, I'll still make
maybe 4 years ago already. She did a
She said she'd
Okay,
be
it's
willing to come
5:30,
in
so
with
we'll
the
go ahead and call the
staff,
meeting to order.
do training for staff.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Want to read our 5 school board basics. We're going to do something new. We're each going to read one of them, okay? So I'll start with the first one and we'll just go down the line and maybe next time we'll switch it up so that we
That's
get
a
used
great
to.
idea.
Yeah, okay. So the first one is put students first.
All the law and our own policy.
Respect the chain of command.
Base decisions on shared objective information.
And operate in the public eye.
Okay. Next, we will move on to our consent items. And it is recommended to approve these. Do I have a motion? There were some additional bills that Kendra gave us.
It's mostly credit cards that came in and some additional bills. It's just a few scholarships that were paid too.
Okay, is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Okay. Is there a discussion on any of those or any questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And we don't have any
I
visitors.
don't see anyone.
Okay, so we'll go on to our administrative reports.
Kent couldn't be here with us tonight. Sounds like he's attending
Yeah,
concert.
for his daughters, yes.
And him and I met briefly. He just wanted me to highlight a few things. There's an attachment, if you would pull that up for me, Stan.
There we go.
As part of our professional development, district-wide, we've been focusing on the MTSS process. And I know the elementary has done a lot of work in collaboration with the AEA to kind of start the process and make positive steps in implementing. And the AEA felt that we were a really positive example of great implementation of the MTSS process. And so they actually asked some of the elementary staff to go down and present at a conference how we went through the MTSS implementation, the professional development, tying it in with district goals, getting staff training, tying it in with professional development, and just kind of a highlight to the great things that they've done at the elementary to implement the MTSS process. We had 4 presenters go down, and I believe they're named on there, but I might be wrong. But yeah, so Kent just wanted me to highlight that, and the AEA felt that we were kind of a great example of how to do it right. And I think when we do things right, we should let people know that we've been recognized for that. So.
And this was on a banner or something, right, at the...
Yep. So they
Place they
presented.
presented?
Presented, and this PDF, what you're seeing here, was also on display there. So, yeah, kind of a positive thing we wanted to highlight, and Kent asked that I share that with you. And then, his report and mine, pretty similar. December, kind of that last final stretch before break. Lots of positive and fun activities for the kids this week. Middle school is going to the movie theater. I know the elementary has lots of things planned, and the high school on Friday has class competitions. So lots of fun things going on. He just asked that I kind of highlight that as well. So that was it for Kent's report. And then my own, I just wanted to thank staff for their hard work. I know a lot of staff members have been staying after school to assist students in preparing for finals and helping them get across the finish line. It's a little higher stakes at the high school. These kids need to pass these classes to get credits, and staff really want that for them, and sometimes maybe want it a little bit more than some of the students they're working with, but I know they have put in a lot of additional time to help students, and I'm grateful for that. Winter activities are in full swing. It's been great to see students competing, and with the flu season, we've had some staff members out for different reasons, and I feel like we've done a great job internally covering. There's been a lot of that happening, and I just wanted to thank staff for that as well. Professional development, we're continuing, like the elementary, to work on the MTSS. Katie Schroeder and I led a training a couple weeks ago on formative assessments that we thought was really positive. That's kind of the first step in the MTSS process, is identifying what your kids' needs are, where they're at, and then you implement interventions from there. So we're focusing on the assessment piece this year. The BLT has been working on lots of different things, from handbook and policy changes we've discussed, when conferences are and how they should be based on SIAC feedback. And on the 22nd, we'll have the class competitions for the high school, and we've had some discussions about that, and just trying to bring back positive, fun things for kids and help them enjoy the school experience. And then the attendance for staff up to date to December. Obviously, there's a few more days that aren't going to be on there, and then the professional development attendance is on there as well. So, any questions I can answer?
Looks like a lot of good things going on.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, thank you, Casey, for doing both there. Appreciate it. Just waiting for the grid to load here. There we go. For my report, kind of pertaining to that, the progress towards our literacy and math scores, some of the things that we've done in the last month. And like I said last month, some of the time it's feel a little selfish sometimes pointing these out because some of the times it's working with others and the work that these guys have done. But I know myself and the principals, we've been looking at the school performance profile. We talked about that at our work session and discussing just with that and with our staff what that looks like for next year and maybe some changes taking place and things to make us stronger, but with staffing and talking about how that future for us and making changes, all that plays together, and so a lot of conversations with that. We've started some initial conversations for our PD plans for next year, and I'm going to circle back to that a second at the end of my report here, but would like to talk with you guys in a second here about setting a date in early January for a work session. I'm thinking to be about an hour. I don't know that we want to go longer than that when it's just the one topic, but kind of presenting where we're at PD, get some input for you guys, talk about our goals, and then maybe get a goal for the next year or two based on what we've been doing, and then hopefully get some overall larger, big picture, 2, 3, 4 goals. I don't know that we want more than that for our PD direction, so we can use that kind of as a roadmap to guide us into next year and beyond. So I'll talk about that here at the end of my report. Talking about staff retention and engagement, the principals have done, based on some BLT feedback and other work, and worked with them on lining up some interactive times and maybe some things to do to have some of those fun experiences with staff. So I know they're going to do a few different things this week, Wednesday for PD as a little break and some activities, and then set out some stuff in January as well for a get-together night and just some of those things to, kind of build that engagement and that family theme. And then for the financial stability and ability, like we talked about in our work session, the 5-year projection model, and I'll just give a brief overview of it tonight, but we did a lot of that work at our work session with you guys. Kendra and I have been working on the line item budget for next year and making some of those financials and keeping moving there, and then just continuing to look at our staffing needs, what we need filled, what changes do we need to make to keep us strong and viable. So that kind of summarizes a little bit along the terms of goals. What I would like to briefly discuss here, because I know scheduling things is really a challenge, for when we come back, have a work session, and we'd involve the principals for sure, they're aware of this, and then potentially if it worked into their schedule, we'd bring the instructional coaches in, and then we just have a work session talking about what we've been doing for PD to give you just maybe a little bit more than the 30-second explanation we always give you for our reports. And at the beginning of the year, when you're not in the education world, I know that can be overwhelming. The training me and Kendra were at last week, did you get that from my ASBO? So she had a document that was shared with her that had all the acronyms
Pretty good list of acronyms.
that we use in education alphabetically. Like,
Be helpful.
Yeah.
I can't remember how many.
And those are like statewide ones. We have our own, MTSS, BLT. Some of those that we talked about tonight would not be on
Yeah.
there probably either.
I was kind of thumbing through and got to I, and then we got back to what we were
It's
looking. I didn't get
overwhelming.
beyond I. But, I mean, there was several pages, so I know that can be confusing in education because there are a lot of terms and acronyms and things like that. But just looking at January, I mean, we can do things at night, but I know we start getting into ball games and schedules and things like that. Things can be challenging. So I was just going to throw out, I know this worked last time, but if we did, I know the 3rd is right when we come back from semester. There's nothing wrong with that on that Wednesday, but either the 3rd or the 10th is 2 potential dates at 5:30, and then hopefully be done by 6:30 would be the idea. What does that look like for you guys?
I know the 10th does not work for me that night.
Either would work for me.
What about the 3rd?
Third.
I think so.
Everyone's almost like, do I dare say it works? 'Cause
I
that's,
know.
that's almost too easy.
That works.
So I'll put that on there. I won't do it right now. I'll send it out. But let's plan on January 3rd at 5:30
Okay.
right here. And I'll send out a calendar invite. But if we put that down, we'll have that as a work session. and it'll be focused on some of the academic content specifically with our PD. And we don't have everything lined up, but we're envisioning is at least going a little more in depth to show you what we've been doing and some of the discussions we've been having, and then maybe some of the things we're looking at moving forward, and get some input from you guys, and if we can come up with a few of those longer range goals between us, then we can use that to kind of guide our choices moving forward in regards to our PD and staffing needs, if that makes sense. So we'll figure January 3rd. Cool. That went well. Yeah.
Set at 5:30.
5:30, and then we will try to keep that within an hour. All right. Questions about my report?
On to committee meetings. Let's do this one.
It does. So I can tell you what it said. We have not met as policy.
Oh, there it is.
Did mine pop up there? Since last time, but we should set a time to meet policy-wise to go over the 600 series, and I have one other one to go with, and I just think with Jennifer being on board, that'd be good to go through that together. So maybe if you guys could stick around at the end, we'll figure a time for a policy meeting. Okay. We have not met, obviously, for facilities. I'm thinking in January we'll meet. We won't set that up tonight, but we'll meet sometime in January as we get going to kind of create a needs list. I've been kind of working through that. There's some things I want to prepare ahead of time so that we have an idea of SAVE and PEPL, and me and Kendra have been talking about that already. And then finance, just kind of those that are in finance, keep in the back of your minds, we'll probably get going on that sooner rather than later, specifically in regards to negotiations. And working with our staff on that, we want to get that done sooner than later, just so that when the deadline comes, the first day we can get contracts out. Ideally, I would like to do that, and not only for staff, but then for Kent and Casey too, to kind of make plans for next year. I just think that'll help us as a school if we can get that done sooner. So those on committee at the end here will briefly meet if that works and figure out a date.
Okay. Abe, do you have any recognition of excellence for us?
Can you pull yours up?
Yep.
Can you read from there?
It is slow loading today.
For the USD Honor Band, students will travel to Vermilion in early February to participate in Honor Band. And then for the Symphonic Honor Band, Keaton Crowett and Natalie Weber made it, and Concert Honor Band, Maya Poland made it. And the SDSU Honor Band, students will travel to Brookings in late February to participate in Honor Band. And for that Honor Band, Kyla Schwager and Natalie Weber made it, and Festival Band, Alan Mejia and Damian Cruz made it. And for an alternate is Paige Weber. And then the VFW Auxiliary Essay Contest winners. 5th grade in first place was Dre Barafa with I Love America Because. And for 6th grade first place was Amelia Hyman, How Am I Inspired by America. And then recognition for Janaea Horstman, Hannah Pranz, and Evie Chambers for assisting with an imperative situation professionally and gracefully at an away basketball game. And then November Generals of the Week. On November 3rd, for elementary was Peyton Watterson, middle school was Connor Marco, high school was Christina Haben, and staff was Jean Nag and Kim Alsip. And for November 10th, the elementary was Jalen Perry, middle school was Dylan Arias, high school was Baylor Sembach, and staff was Carla Creighton. And for November 17th, the elementary was Jason Olvera, middle school was Pierce Julius, high school was Ben Byers and Hadley Creighton, and the staff was Michael Anderson. And for November 22nd, the elementary was Jet Marco and Sophia Howard, middle school was Paisley Krakis, high school was Erica Rosenberg, and staff was Kendra Ryder. And November 29th, elementary was Dixon Eddy, middle school was Levi Seiler, high school was Dawson Beyer, and staff was Renee Schmidt.
And Chrissy Ackerman kind of keeps track and coordinates that for us. So we were talking, because that's new this year, and how to put that on here. So we decided each month, like in December, so that we don't have to go, what months did we recognize and didn't. So like in December, we'll put all the generals of the week for the previous month on there. So yes, we've had those in December. We'll put those on January's recognition of excellence. Then we just put a month on at a time, if that makes sense. So if you're going, why weren't the December ones on there? We'll put those all on there for the January board meeting.
Thank you, Abel. Okay, moving on to a literacy presentation. Carrie Kirkman.
Hello.
Hello.
So I'm Carrie Kirkman. I am the math curriculum head for W.H. School District. I know you all know me. But you can go ahead. So I wanted to let you know who actually is on our team. So in the high school, there's myself. The 7-8 teacher is Tyler Zyman. Danielle Groders is 5-6. Brandon Bergfeld is 4th grade. Tess Rockman 3rd. Jackie Leach is 2nd. Jessica Stammer is 1st grade. And Mike Anderson is our kindergarten representative. We have a very good group. We get along really well. We respect each other's time, and we respect each other's opinions, and we just really have a fun group whenever we get together. So it's a good group that we have together for our math. And then, so here's a little timeline of what's happened, and kind of we stalled out a little bit, so Kent and I were discussing what we wanted to do. So July 29th, 2010, Iowa adopted the Common Core math, which became the Iowa Core. We adopted that fall, that as our Common Core. So we actually have had our standards from the very beginning, or we've had our standards the longest as far as Common Core goes. So like science, they just had theirs in the last couple of years, English and things like that. So we've had ours for the longest time. And so we've been able to have at least one round of curriculum, and the elementary has done 2 rounds of curriculum that has these Common Core standards. So then 2012-13 was the first year that we had the Common Core aligned with our curriculum. The new curriculum that we started in the elementary K-6 started in the 2021-22 school year, and then we are up for review in 2025. So that's kind of the timeline of how long we've had our standards and things like that. So then, so here's what we've accomplished so far. So this is just an example. So this is a high school example. On the left, you can see this is our functions. So Keith and I have worked a lot of hours on this. So this one is our standards and benchmarks. So basically, we just have, is that standard or is that benchmark met in what class? Now, it may be met 3 times, it may be met 20 times in a class, but we just have this standard was met in that class. So the one on the left, the reason why I have 2 here is you can see this one is for our functions. So at the furthest left, it says f.if.1. So if it starts off with an F, that is a functions standard. And so then those are all the classes that it meets. And you may look at one column and it's completely empty. And that is the geometry. Well, the functions, we really don't talk about that so much in geometry. The one on the right is the geometry standards. So if you take a look at the geometry class, we're meeting our geometry standards in geometry class. And so it is for each grade, kindergarten through 8th grade, they have, these are the standards that need to be met in this grade, and you need to make sure that they're met in this grade. When they get to high school, they say, here are the standards, you need to meet them in the 4-year time frame. And so then with us, with the variety of classes that we have, we're able to complete and fully cover. Now, this is a working document, and so this is one where it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to revise this. Probably not this year. I don't have a lot of extra time. But in future years, this is one maybe next year just to kind of revise and maybe say, how many times are we hitting the standard in this class? How many times are we hitting the standard in this class? Instead of making sure that all the standards are met, like dive deeper into it. Like I said, it's a working document. So we have done the the horizontal and vertical alignment of our curriculum. And then we started in on the curriculum maps and things like that, and then that kind of stalled out district-wide a little bit. COVID happened, and there were more things that took precedence over the curriculum map that we had. So those are things that we have done and worked on. So this is our focus for this year. This fall, we started together with the alignment of our test questions. So you can see on the bottom there, that's an example. I believe, is that a 5 or a 6? So that's 5th grade? Oh, okay.
5.
I printed off 6th grade. Nope, I printed off 5th grade. So this is one, all of the elementary teachers have done this. Tyler, he only has taught for one semester, and so I told him, Tyler, I think we need to focus on our curriculum and like delivering the material right now, as far as instead of just diving right into the test questions. Like, you're new, like we need to start here. We can't just throw you in the deep end without floaties. And then since I am I added a couple classes, and I'm building or changing curriculum and working it for myself. So I actually am not doing this either with our test questions, but K6, they have those all aligned. So that's an example of one test on the bottom left-hand corner. That's one test of standards and benchmarks, what is meant in a 5th grade class. And then I printed this off and I went, ooh, that's a little small. But this is just an example of what else we have. It is small print, I apologize, but it is not necessarily the material on it, but just to show you kind of what we're doing. So across the top, you will see that these are the standards and benchmarks in 5th grade. So Danny has taken all of these, and all of the teachers have done this, but I just grabbed Danny's first. So these are all of the tests, and this is just one page from it. When I was going to print it, I could have printed 8 pages, and I didn't think you wanted that small print, that big of a book. And so we have all of the tests, and we know how many questions are asked that pertain to that particular standard that it's covered. So now that we have that information, we're going to use that to focus on the ISAPS scores for this spring, because talking with Kent, what did we want to do for 2023-24 school year? And so we took our information. So on the top, there's grade 5 of our school compared to the state. And on the bottom is the 9th grade from last year, the ISAP scores compared with the state. Like, how did we do compared with other people around the state for our percentages? And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this data, and we're going to use it to explain gaps. We're not going to use them as excuses, but some of them might be, we hadn't gotten to that unit yet. It might have been, with all of the snow days that we had, we didn't get to that unit till maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the test, and normally we would have had that unit before the test, and it just, like, maybe an explanation as to why some of the scores were maybe lower or some of the scores were higher, what happened there, and then just look for areas of growth within the math curriculum. And if we have to, do we have to rearrange some curriculum? If this unit is in April and it gets hit hard in the ISAS, do we need to move it to maybe March or something like that? So that's what we're going to do in the spring. I think that's my last one.
Yes.
Okay.
When you guys were originally looking at this, we were kind of hoping even for ISAS data on even like per strand.
We were looking and hoping that we could do, like, have it broken down for not necessarily each standard and benchmark, but this area within the standard and benchmark. So like with functions, they have all of the subdivisions of that, and could we have a breakdown of that? But ISAFs doesn't go that far. That's what we really wanted a breakdown of, but we don't have that information.
Not available.
I think if nothing else, even if you don't understand all this, you see a little bit when we talk about, okay, why are we giving them 2 days a month on curriculum work? Specifically when you're going like into math, science, and reading, you can see some of the detail it takes to figure out, okay, it's not just, oh, we didn't score well in 3rd grade. Why? Well, you're trying to pull out which questions did we not score well on, and then what's the reason we didn't hit that this year or whatever, or let's go back. Oh, I didn't realize we didn't cover that as much in 2nd grade as we need to, So that's why a lot of those details and those conversations happen. So that's why it's important that they're given that time to do that in professional development.
And one of the things why we have gone as far as we have, because I had emailed Kent and I said, what should our focus be on? Because he had like originally some ideas for us to use. And I said, Kent, we've had our standards and benchmarks for the longest out of any of the curricular areas. We've done some of these things, like what can we do? And we came up with this idea for this year for our focus. And some of it is that Iowa core money, or the Iowa the Iowa Core hours that we're able to turn in. We have gotten a lot of work done within the math curricular area just because we've had that Iowa Core money. I know a lot of the teachers this year have taken advantage of it because they compiled all the tests in one semester instead of taking all year to do it. And then so this spring we can dive into the ISAFs when we meet and that kind of stuff. So. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for all the hard work. Send
Yeah.
that back to the team for sure.
Yep.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, up next is to review the levy expirations.
So this is under discussion just so that you guys are aware. So the instructional support levy is the one that we reauthorized this summer, and then we had to redo because of the language on it. Excuse me. So by not putting it to a vote, but just doing it through a public hearing, we can always extend that 5 years. So that was expiring in FY24, and it got extended to FY29. The board approved PEPL. You'll hear the term PEPL. That stands for Property, Plant, and Equipment Levy. Is approved annually, so we'll do that this spring. The voter approved one has always a 10-year duration, and that is authorized until FY26. So in the next year or two, we'll have to be working and do a similar process that we did on the instructional support levy to reauthorize that and renew that. In looking at these things, remember 2 years ago we talked about extending the revenue. It's called a revenue purpose statement that allows us to use those saved dollars, which is through the 1 penny sales tax, right? And you could do that through 2050. So we had done that. However, in looking into this, Kendra and myself discovered that it wasn't worded correctly. We'll just leave it at that. It wasn't worded correctly when that was turned in 2 years ago. So it's still only authorized through 2031. So at our next city and school election, we will do something with that again. So that gets extended through 2050. It is not a new tax. It's not an additional tax. All it is you have to have your voters approve it, that the revenue purpose statement that allows us to use the funds that are already being collected. And sometimes that gets confusing to people. So even if you turn it down, it doesn't lower our taxes. It just means we can't use the funds. But unfortunately, that is only through 2031. And if we do that, we know we have those funds through 2050. So that's kind of where we're at on our timeline with all the different levy and their expirations. So questions on that?
Okay. On to the 2-minute board policy and finance moment.
All right, so we've done a lot with finance, so I thought we'd take a break from that. But one of the things that I thought would be good to go over, and I didn't print these out, but I put it as an attachment on there. And I have that here in case anyone couldn't get theirs to work. So I took one along here. But this was shared at the Ready, Set, Go, or Ready, Set, Govern, Go Govern new member drive put on by IASB. And I just thought it'd be good to kind of talk through as a reminder, especially as we're starting a new year with a new board again, right? You know, when every year you get, or every two years when we have board elections, a new board. And just as a reminder, as things move forward, what do you do when you have those questions, concerns, and complaints? And I just think it's good to talk through this as a board. But it talks about, because inevitably you're going to have people come up to you and ask some questions, and it could be from something really simple to really complex. And so it says, discuss the resources you guys have as a board development opportunity and talking through this here. But it says, review your board policies on communication channels and complaints and affirm why you have the following commitment. What benefits of following our policy and the importance of the why process exists. So thinking back to some of our processes, and I'll touch on it again here. It says, discuss why do people reach out to the board and share a concern? What are they really hoping for when they reach out? And how can you as board members help the public and staff better understand your role in the district's process for handling these complaints? And then what are some unintended consequences potentially if you don't follow that policy? And I'll give some guidance on that in a second here, but what can occur as a result of a well-intentioned member trying to personally answer a question, resolve an issue? So what are some of, based on your previous experience, what are some of our policies that we have in place to handle complaints or concerns or questions that are brought to you guys as a board.
Encouraging the chain of command.
Chain of command, okay, yep. Kind of along those lines, ask, oh yeah, go on, sorry.
Referring back to policy always, I
Mhm.
think was the biggest thing that I learned when we had those meetings.
Yep. And referring or asking them to go back to the lowest source. I know the night we did the November board meeting, one of the things, they presented some scenarios, and IASB told me the scenarios they present us are never ones they make up. They're ones that have happened that were brought to their attention, so they always change the names, but they're things that are always brought up to them. I didn't know that till I heard that, actually. I just thought they were creating, and they said, nope, we always use examples. We don't have to make anything up, which I found interesting. And a couple of them that night were really simple ones, but it really was concerns over a teacher, and then have you talked to the, not even the principal, the teacher about this? And in both cases, the person hadn't. You know, something going back to the lowest source, I think, are some good things to do that. Why do people reach out to board members at times? Why do they do that and bring their concerns and questions to you guys?
I think sometimes they're wanting you to give them an answer or tell them what they want to hear.
Tell them what they want to hear, yep,
Or they think it's a quick fix. I'm going to tell you and you're going to fix this problem.
yep. I don't have to deal with it myself then, right?
Right.
Yep. Why
I
else?
think sometimes they're not sure who to go to, and it can be a good conversation just to direct them in the right direction. I think my first year, and I don't know about the rest of you guys, but my first year was those first few months, I got a lot of phone calls and emails, and I was glad for the training, like right after the election, because it helped me to know how to respond. Because you do want to be able to give an answer, but you can't always give an answer. So I think just sometimes people need to know that they're listened to too, and I think that's really important. But also then to just guide them in the direction they need to go to start with for those questions. And some are really valid ones that we do need to bring to the board table and talk about.
Absolutely. And I think some of the time they want to be heard. All those
Yeah.
other reasons are obvious ones too. Sometimes people just need to be heard, and they want to know that you guys know and that you've listened to their concerns and so forth. What are some potential unintended consequences of not following policy? And it could be well-intentioned, but the unintended consequences or what could occur as a result. So someone asks you to fix problem A, and instead of telling them to go to the source of the chain of the command, your response is, and you can do whatever issue you want, is, yeah, I'll take care of that for you, or I'll look into it, or I'll deal with that. What are some potential unintended consequences?
One thing, we don't have the power to fix everything on our own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, plain and simple. Or we could forget to look into it. Maybe you guys wouldn't, but I could see myself doing that.
Any others that you could think of?
Well, in the instance that we would have to help out with, ruling on something, you become impartial, I guess.
Right. Yep. So if it came down to that, we had to present, it'd be a not good situation, but and the board has to rule on that, and now you've stepped in and done things. Now you're not partial. You can't take part of that process. Absolutely. Yep. Others? I had a board member from Sheldon ask this question too, and it was Luann that answered it. And she said, one of the things she goes, I think board always has good intentions, but so let's say you take care of that. And she gave the example, something really simple. I wanted my son to be in Mr. Atherton's class, and he got put in Mrs. Byers' class. Okay? And the board member says, you know what, I'll look into and take care of that for you. Thank you. And the reality is they probably never even talked to the principal about it or the teachers. They just at that, now you took care of it. Okay? She said, what message did you just give that person? You'll take care of it. They don't have to. And they said, now who's the public coming to on every question after that? You know, I said, oh, that's a good example. She goes, no, it's not an example. That's an issue. Like when she said we don't give examples, she goes, that's an issue that happens. Someone did that with the best intentions. She goes, there's more to the situation. But she goes, what happened is now people kept going to that board member and not the other 4 because they thought, oh, they'll go take care of it for me. And I was like, and the other board member was from Sheldon and said, that's a great question. And I was thinking, wow, I hadn't even thought about that myself. So that just puts you in a really uncomfortable situation. So those are all great answers. So it just said some of the commitments to the principals, know your policy. There's something like over 400 some policies we have. Okay, I don't have them all memorized and sometimes go, oh, duh, I forgot about that or didn't realize that or, you know, the specifics. So there's no way I expect you guys to know that. But I think the key word is familiar. And there's some key ones to be know of. Number one, you know, that is policy with chain of command and the board and the 200 series, you know, kind of be familiar with some of the things in there, but I just think that helps you. And if you don't know an answer, that's okay. You don't have to know the answers, just know where you got to look or ask or present it. And just know, Luann kept steering when I was using this document, and I said, I think I was going to present this at a board meeting, and she said, great, and she goes, it's the idea of the ship, are you rowing or are you giving direction to the boat? And she goes, always think from that frame of reference. Are you rowing or giving direction? And as board members, we're giving direction, and she's understanding. Sometimes right there it says they just want to be heard, and that's just, they just want to know that you've been listening to them. It doesn't mean you have to agree or disagree, but just listen for understanding. We talked about 2 and 3. Take opportunities to reinforce the confidence in the staff, you know, and saying, you know, I know so-and-so does a great job with that. Why don't you talk to them and follow through and see what happens? And then it never hurts. I like the last one sometimes. If you don't know the answer, just ask for some time to think about it. You don't have to respond right away. I think that's a great answer because I myself, I know I'm victim of that because we like to be fixers, right? Solve problems. So you want that answer. And sometimes you just have to, hey, can I take a moment to think about that? So I think those are great pieces of advice. Any insight or questions or statements you guys have with that?
Well, I think if we try to fix or take care of it, it also tells our staff, whether it's administration or our teachers or our, you know, certified or non-certified staff, tells them that we don't trust them, that they can take care of it. So then it becomes not a good working relationship with the staff.
Yeah, true. I hadn't even gone there yet. Yeah, very true. Other statements? Anyone else? Well, I just thought it was a good, useful doc. I know maybe some of you have seen that or seen elements before, but I think just starting off the new board year, it was a good reminder, reinforcement, and give you a few tools, for lack of a better word, tools to use to respond when you have that, you know. I use this because Kyle gave me this example once, but when they tell you on the north side, hey, the light's out on the north side of the building, you know, that you kind of know, great, did you let the janitors know? Did you let, you know, the principal know? No. Then you kind of know how to respond to that. So, thank you for that.
Thank you for going through that with us. How about our 5-year financial projections?
So this is just a kind of reminder to policy that we have to do that. I know we went through that in the work session, but I just put this on as a visual because how do you share what we went through the other night and everything accurately? So what I did is I took from the Excel file kind of the screenshot that sums this up. But remember, this is the projection, and projections are only as good as the data you have, but this is assuming the kind of the steep decline in enrollment and no changes made to any staffing or expenses, right? You know, and continued low numbers for that SSA moving forward. But by doing that, the reason that one cell is shaded differently is that was the one thing known at the time what would be, and it wasn't predicted. The light blue is everything else is kind of predicted based on other factors. So you don't have to worry about the shading of that cell. But anyway, looking at the unspent balance, you can see over the next 4 or 5 years how that goes down until, like we've talked, if we don't make changes, depending on Which model you look at, that cliff is fiscal year 28 that we've talked about. How big of a cliff that year, kind of depends on which model and the numbers, but we've talked about the importance of, from now until then, talking about that together, being aware of that, and that kind of frames some of the decisions we'll make moving forward and some of the presentations that maybe Mr. Hertz or Mr. DeZale might make in terms of changes to staff as we do that moving forward. Hopefully we can do that painlessly. And as a reminder, we've talked about that. That's why we're offering early retirement. We don't have to have any rash decisions right now, and then that changes. Can we move some of those duties around? Do we not fill all the positions? Those are choices we make over time. And you can kind of see the change in the solvency ratio, which is our basically the money on hand to pay bills is the easy way to explain that. But the big thing you got to look at is that unspent authorized budget we said to talk about, and then the UAB, the unspent authorized budget percentage. You can see how that goes down in FY28. That's where we're negative. That's what you don't want to happen. So kind of, I thought that was the simplest way to sum up what we did the other night.
Any questions, comments on that? Okay, we'll move on to the best communities for music education.
So if you remember last spring, we received that recognition for being one of the best communities for music education again, and sometimes Ray's Midville in the past has come to present that. Would you hold that for me here? Casey's our wonderful model. But they did make a presentation, and I'll pull up the image here. I attached it when the rep came, and you can see Lauren Manson isn't in this picture. She's at the elementary at the time, but Mr. Morgan and Miss Lee and Mr. Jacobson were there to receive that at the time. So they did make the presentation in school.
Thank you.
So I just
hold it.
Should be a hand model.
Yeah.
professional hand model. So yeah, and so they took a picture, and I had them share that with me because the reps couldn't be here tonight, and they had turned that in. I said we'd do that at the board, but I just think an outstanding recognition for our music program in our school and community again. So we'll hang that somewhere.
Will you share that picture of the staff with them? That's really who should.
Yes,
Not
yes.
me holding the sign.
I can do that.
It should be me. I didn't teach anybody.
If you need to, let me know. But you should be able to pull that off simply off the site. But if you want that picture and can't get it, let me know.
Same section.
Yep, it's at the attachment. And if you can't, I will gladly email it to you.
Okay, moving on to new business. We have need to approve the purchase of a 12-passenger van.
So I talked about this, I believe I said this last month or at the work session, one of the two, I don't remember. But it applied for some ESSER funds to purchase this, and we were approved. And so this is the purchase agreement for that van. It is white, full disclosure. We have not paid for it yet, but it is here. It has arrived. But yeah, we need your permission to do that first. But if you're like someone said that they saw a van sitting in our bay, that is true. They delivered it, but we haven't paid that yet. And the attachment is the purchase agreement for it.
Do you have a motion to approve that purchase?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a 12-passenger van for $44,995.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's passed. Then we will talk about the consider approval of at-risk dropout.
So based on our enrollment and some of the other numbers and figures, we put in with the state what we qualify for. And so our application for the at-risk dropout modified supplemental amount for FY25, so that would be based on our numbers, remember, not this fiscal year because we're in FY24, it would be what we would get allocated to us for FY25, is $247,679. And I believe if you make the motion, when you make the motion, you have to include the exact amount.
I recommend to approve the at-risk dropout modified supplemental amount application in the amount of $247,679. for fiscal year 25.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, is there a discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, that is passed.
And I should have explained that a little bit more. So then by making that motion, when this is all done, we'll upload the minutes to a site with the state to prove that that was approved, and then that will grant us that authority in our budget for next year to include that. If we didn't do it, we wouldn't get that. So that's how that works.
Okay, moving on to considering the approval of a meeting date change for February.
So a little discussion on this one before we make the motion here. Past practices, we typically have moved our February board meeting from the third Monday of the month to the second, because that always falls on President's Day. And I'll pull up the calendar here in a second so we can look at it. So we would have to approve, because we annually approve to have ours on the third Monday at 5:30. We did that at our annual meeting last month. However, looking at that, and this doesn't mean we can't, but I just want to be aware, this year the first round for the class that we're in, boys basketball, district basketball, we have no idea what that'll be, but the first round for boys district basketball for our class is that night. Another option I just put on there just because of that could be Tuesday the 13th. So what I'm looking at here is typically we have our board meeting on that third Monday in February. The last several years, I think I think almost every year, at least since I was principal, that was always moved up a week. I'm just trying to make sure if there was a year that didn't happen, but I don't remember that not happening. So we've moved it up. It is boys. I did pull up the school calendar. Like I said, we don't know. It's the first round of the boys 2A basketball is that night. The Tuesday night is the second round of 2A girls basketball. Not to state the obvious, but we won't be involved in that night. If you're looking what's on the school calendar, there is girls basketball at home. I didn't see anything else. The only other thing is boys state wrestling starts on Wednesday if we did the meeting on Tuesday, but I think we're the night session. Does that sound right?
I don't know what session.
If
I was
you'd
gonna
like-
say.
I was going by, I've looked at
I
it.
think we looked,
Yeah.
Oh.
Sometimes I look at that enough and then I forget what it
I
is and
thought that
confuse
far.
prior years in my mind, but I'm pretty sure we're the night session. I don't think we're the morning session. But anyway, so we could still do it the 12th. You could pick a completely different date and say, no, Stan, we're going the 27th. I mean, that's fine, but I'm just kind of laying the options out there, what we've historically done. So feel free to discuss here and we'll go from there.
Problem just leaving it on the 19th?
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday. It's
It's a
not
holiday for
would be a
us.
work day for these guys. Yeah.
We have left it there. Years past, we always had it. It's not ideal.
Previously, at one point, there's been years where that's happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I was trying to remember that's
I
happened.
guess I'm
every year.
alright just leaving it on the 19th if you guys are, but that's totally up
I
to
can
you.
do it.
I mean,
What would the 20th look like that Tuesday? So instead of doing it on
So the Tuesday,
Monday-
the 20th, is when Luann's coming to do that workshop
Oh, yeah,
with us. And I'll explain more what's happening, but she's scheduled to come on Tuesday, the 20th.
I'll be out that week, so I would be open to moving it ahead so I can attend.
The week of the 19th, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
just to make sure.
Any other discussion? Jamie's kind of thinking leaving it on the 19th. Anybody else?
I know, I guess for me, like the 19th or the 13th.
The Monday, the 19th, or Tuesday, the
Yeah.
13th? Anyone else have a
Preference.
preference? Yeah. Would be a good way to put that.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't say anything else either.
So it sounds like I'm hearing you guys are open to either the 19th or the 13th
Yeah,
right now. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm hearing, and I haven't seen anyone disagree.
no. So, anybody feeling like they want to make a motion to recommend one or the other? Can do that.
I guess if nobody's opposed to the 19th, that might just look better if I do have any qualifiers, because I
Oh.
don't know what Tuesday night will look like
Okay.
getting everybody
Ready?
ready, but I don't know that. That's unknown right now, so.
Casey, you said you're not here that week.
Correct, yep, I'll be on.
19th.
Ken wouldn't be working. I mean, there's no school, so no one's working
Right.
that day.
Like I said, it doesn't probably matter, but.
And just from, I mean, those guys would just soon not do it. It don't matter
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah,
If I'm,
I guess I kind of look at it this way too. It is a holiday for our paid staff. We would have 4 paid staff that typically are here. Casey's going to be gone, so.
Okay, 13th then?
We
I
can
need
go
a
with the-
motion.
We can go with the 12th. It's just if the boys have a game, I'm not going to be here on the 12th then, most likely, because I'll go to
Yeah.
the game.
Right. And like I said, we don't have any idea what that'll look like, and
Right.
sometimes
I mean,
the
like,
first
you guys
round
have
has
no idea.
Yeah.
sometimes the first round has a bye, or some teams don't play that first round too.
Right, right,
I have no way of knowing
Right.
what that'll be. This far in advance, anyway.
Right.
So I'm maybe hearing the Tuesday the 13th.
That's fine.
So that would be up to you guys if someone
Yep.
wants to do that, to make a motion, or leaving it.
We're leaving it on the 19th.
Excuse me.
But one way or another, we need to have a motion, and we can go from there.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to move the February meeting to Tuesday the 13th.
Okay. Is
At
there a
5:30?
second?
I second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay, it'll be the 13th. Okay, moving on to approval of new contracts.
The one I'll explain, it's pretty self-explanatory, but Josh at Earls for high school boys basketball, we didn't fill the assistant position for boys basketball with anyone paid. He was volunteering. He did not want to commit early in the year because he didn't know if he would be at everything, and he didn't want to put them in a situation if they found someone else. Brandon Bergfeld, talked to Mrs. Elser about it. He hasn't missed a practice yet other than over Thanksgiving weekend, I think. So, and has been serving in that role.
Do I have a motion to approve these contracts?
I'll make a motion to approve the contracts as presented.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. And consider approval of open enrollment requests. as-
Just one, and you can see the request
Yeah.
there as listed.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve that?
These are effective immediately then, is that correct? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve open enrollment as presented.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Okay, that has been passed. Second reading of board policies.
So these were policies that had a slight change or an update based on recommendations from IASB and The first reading of those with changes were presented last month in November, and this would just be the second reading to make them official.
Do they need to list those policies when
Just,
there's
yep,
a
you would
motion?
read them out as
I
stated on the heading.
recommend to approve the second reading of the proposed policies with changes. 401.01, 501, 503.1, 503.1 R1, 503.02, 503.08, 605.3 R1, 701.05 R1, and no to 503.08 R1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now we will move into closed session. I need a motion to move into closed. What?
Just wait for people to leave the motion.
Okay. No.
Oh yeah, we should probably stop that too.
Thanks, Casey.
Good night, guys.